Welcome all, and hello to you, Mike, across the pond there. We've got another wonderful draft breakdown coming up for you here in the peak draft season now, the height of draft season, you could say. Things really starting to heat up now, Mike.
Yeah, it's draft season when the whiteboard comes out, Tom. The whiteboard of prospects rears its head this time of year. There you go.
Look at this, beautiful.
Getting into
$30 from Office Max.
Yeah, never let it be said you don't like to invest in this podcast, Tom.
No, yeah, I will not stand for that at all.
Well, we do always need to give some money to the good people at the Draft Network for when it comes time to do our mock draft, because you can't do any trades unless you pay for the premium service over there. So we'll have to make another investment at some point.
To try and leave it to the last minute, though, generally.
Yeah.
Our strategy on that one.
Yeah.
All right, good. So today we're going to look at the defensive side of the ball. We've had our rundown of quarterbacks, and I'm sure we'll get back to quarterbacks at some point, Mike, once we're a bit more informed, I guess, on everyone we've looked at. But today I'm going to run through my top DBs in the draft, and then you're going to take a whirl around the defensive line. There's some interesting prospects there as well. So
yeah, well, I think it's important, and teams obviously value those kind of positions in the first round too. So that's why we're logical to start there. Teams that affect players that affect the quarterback and the quarterbacks, and then we'll just sort of work out from there. I did manage to have a look at Zay Flowers the other day, so I'm getting some work on the wide receivers as well. So I'm sure that'll bear fruit somewhere down the line here.
Yes, of course. All right, good. So I'll run through my top four. I haven't quite fleshed out a top five yet of DBs. And I guess if you could just bring up the draft profiles of these lads as we move along, that'll be swell, as they say over here.
Yeah, goodness, your English is collapsed already. You've only been living over there a couple of months. It's all gone to pot without me.
Yeah.
Right. You should be able to see.
All right, so number one, Mike, we're going to have a look at my number one ranked prospect, who's Devon Witherspoon. Witherspoon is spelled with an I, just in case. I know we get some wrong sometimes.
Always.
So, yeah, he's my number one prospect. Film watched for me was against Michigan and Iowa in 22. He had a sensational season in 2022. Must be said, he joined Illinois, and in his first year starting, he gave a passer rating of 122. In his senior season, that was just a minor 24 QBR when he was targeted. So absolutely insane rating for him there. Now, what I like about this guy is a serious competitor, and what I like about a lot of these guys I'm going to talk about is they are willing tacklers, which is something we don't actually see too much, Mike, in these cornerbacks coming out into the draft. But a lot of these guys can tackle. I think Witherspoon's the best tackling corner. I think he's almost a safety the way he plays. Size is good. He's 6 foot. He's a serious competitor, targets the ball. And what I like about him, he didn't run at the combine because he had a hamstring concern, but it's quick play speed from what I saw on the tape. Really quick to diagnose what's going on. Lightweight by some standards, but he tackles harder than any of these guys I've seen. So I don't think size is a problem. And I think he's a fit in zone and man. I think he can man up with the top receivers in the NFL from what I've seen. I like the way he plays for the ball, and he's not too handsy, but he's got like nice speed and very fluid, good in the hips. So I wouldn't see a problem with using him in man, especially as we've talked before about the top receivers in the game these days aren't necessarily all Mike Evans size. They're kind of smaller guys, so the size isn't a problem for me there. But I think he can do it all. And for me, my grade in him is a top 10 pick.
Yeah, no, I think that's reasonable. I think he's obviously extremely talented player. I think what you said about recognition, I think pattern recognition and being in the right place at the right time will suit a zone scheme more than man, would be my guess. But obviously, we'll see what happens with whoever drafts him. I suspect there will be teams in the top 15. I don't know if he'll end up in the top 10. I think there might be teams in the top 15 that'll be willing to have a look at him, especially teams running a zone scheme. So yeah, and the ferocious tackling as well has lent some to look at him as a safety nickel hybrid along the sort of Chauncey Gardner Johnson kind of route, I think. So look out for somebody taking that kind of gamble on him as well. Someone that wants one of those do it all safeties for a split safety defense. Maybe someone like the Chargers, something like that, might look at him. But yeah, no, he's a hell of a talent. Totally understandable to have him at 1 for sure.
Yeah. I mean, some of those tackles we saw him put in on, I think it was the Michigan film, were just ridiculous hits.
Tackle velocities on running backs as well, not quarterbacks in the pocket or wide receivers on the perimeter. Is actually taking down running backs in the backfield, which you just don't see that in modern football anymore. It's just in the spread game. It's such a rare thing to see.
Yeah. Wonderful form of the tackles. And yeah, it was just really fun film to watch that. So, I like him a lot. We'll go on to number 2 here for me. If you can bring him up over there, please, good sir. And that will be Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't watch any specific film of Gonzalez. I just watched some general cut-ups of his highlights, so I might not be best placed to speak about his weaknesses. But what I can tell you, he's probably got the best ball skills of the bunch, both in terms of playing through footballs and batting balls away from receivers, but also interceptions. He had a number of big-time interceptions there in that 22 season. Now, he was playing in the Pac-12, and maybe some of those games weren't against particularly great offenses, but I really thought he played very well with ball skills, and he's another one who's a willing tackler, and he put some huge hits in. And talk about cornerbacks hitting running backs in that Georgia game. He stopped the Georgia running back on the goal line with a form tackle around his legs and just pulled his legs out for him, which is just incredible to watch. I mean, there's barely any corners in the NFL who can make tackles like that. So that's really good. And yeah, he's had a fantastic combine. I'm not quite sure of his exact stats, but they've got him here. But by all accounts, he lit it up at the combine.
Yeah, no, he's a brilliant athlete. Ran track, I believe, in high school. His dad also played college basketball as well. I think he's a bit of a latecomer to football as well. I think he started off much in high school as just a pure basketball player, and ended up going over to play football. So that is one of the knocks on him, I think, is that maybe just a little bit young at the position. And I think there were some issues with defending timing routes on back shoulders, things like that, which I think he did kind of partially correct, but I saw him give up a few back shoulders and just occasionally get a little bit clingy, a little bit grabby in man coverage. But despite all of that, I mean, he's my number 1 corner, just because of that length to play boundary corner in a man-to-man scheme. I think somebody like the New England Patriots will have a keen eye on this guy if he falls down to their kind of range. I suspect you're doing well to see him fall past Detroit down there at 6. Even with the money they've invested in that secondary, they were like a turnstile back there last year. So I still think they could add a premier man cover corner to their defensive backfield. Have seen him linked to the Seahawks. I think that's a bit farcical, just because they just never draft corners in the first round. So they've got no history of doing it. But yeah, no, I think he's my number 1 corner. I'd expect to see him go in the top 10 with a spoon going in the top 20. And I think there'll be a couple of takers, as I say, in the top 10 that would look at him. I think the Eagles would look at him closely at number 10 as well, despite re-signing Slay and Bradbury, just for that overall skill set and those guys being a bit older. So yeah, no, I think he'll be the first one taken when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I pretty much have top 10 grades on both of them. I personally prefer Witherspoon, but that's interesting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see which one goes first and how we rate them when it comes to our joint big board there, Mike. It'll be a bit of a debate there between us.
Yeah, no, I agree. We'll have to, we'll see what happens in mock draft madness as well. Just a week before week or so before the main event. Well, I'll have to let the people know what we think. We'll see then if you're willing to jump up and take Witherspoon ahead of his time.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Okay. The 2 other corners we're going to look at, for me, the play drops off a little bit when you're comparing them to these 2 top guys. The first one of these guys is Kelee Ringo from Georgia. Film watched for me, Kentucky 21 and Ohio State 22. Kelee Ringo, a sensational athlete, ran a 4.36 at the combine. And again, he's just another one of these physical corners, probably the most physical in terms of playing receivers. He really likes to get his hands on guys, and a lot of times it seems like the officials let him do so. He wasn't really impeding him too much. He just likes to feel them out. When he can't get his hands on people, I think that's when he runs into trouble a bit, and he can get beaten by superior route running. He had a bit of a hard time against Marvin Harrison Jr. Against OSU, which is probably
I think everyone did. I think everyone did.
Him. But he still had some pass breakups against Marvin Harrison. I saw a great tackle where he got up into the Kentucky running back, Malcolm Rodriguez, I think his name is. It's a big running back, and it got in his face and held him up and didn't give him a yard. So that was another great tackle. So that's why I got a first round, probably a late first round grade on Ringo, because he can play. I think he would be great in the nickel role, maybe as a hybrid safety nickel. Good size there, as you can see, 6'2", 205. The main problem I have with him is it's a hard evaluation on that Georgia defense with that elite front seven. They seem to turn around every year. Probably a lot of the times, certainly in the OSU game, I saw a lot of the Stroud throws were a bit off rhythm, make it easier for him to break up passes and stuff like that. He probably had a lot of that. So it's a hard evaluation on him. He could end up being the best of this bunch. It's just hard for me to put him above the two based on what I saw.
That last point is why I've got him down at number 3. I think he's a bit more boom or bust. I think the ceiling might be higher than Gonzalez, honestly. Just with his pure athleticism and at that size, you end up with the best cornerback of this bunch. But there are, as you say, there are just too many. There are too many plays off from Kelee Ringo, and there were catches allowed that you didn't see the other two allow. As you say, with a supporting cast like he had at Georgia, it does make the evaluation harder. I think, to me, playing in that man match Saban Belichick style coverage system that they play at Georgia, I think he's a much cleaner. You can make a much cleaner analysis of him if you're a man coverage team about how you'd fit him into your scheme. I think zone teams would really be taking a gamble on whether he could pick it up or not, because he just played. They play man match or straight up man coverage on basically every down in Georgia. So that might be an adjustment in the league where he has to do a bit more zone and be a bit more versatile. I agree with you. As a rookie, I think coming in as that third safety, and with his tackling ability and being able to cover some slot receivers on two-way goes might be the best way to ease him in, and then hopefully in the long term you get a long-term lockdown corner if all goes well for him. I totally agree with that. It's going to be a tough one, but I'm very interested to see where he falls, because I'm sure someone will take him in the first round, but I think that the grade is around a late round 1, early round 2 probably for me. I don't think he gets past Baltimore or New England.
Yeah,
honestly, with that.
Where are they picking them in the 20s?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. I know I think the Ravens are in the teens. Sorry, the Patriots are in the teens. I think they're down to like 12 or 13 or something. I think either Gonzalez or Ringo in that kind of range, having lost Devin McCourty in this offseason. For the Patriots would be something that they'd seriously have to look at, because with that background in the Saban style system, I think would be a automatic fit for them.
That's true. Yeah.
So one to watch there.
All right, and the last one we're going to have a look at here is Joey Porter Jr., Penn State. I had a look at just one of his games this year. I have read a number of reports on him, though, but the film watch for me was Ohio State 22. And I think with Joey Porter Jr. is that the stats, they're not really anything to write home about them. Like, no picks in this senior year for him. He did, he's a junior, but his last year of college. He did have a few fumble recoveries, which was good. He played well through that. And again, tackles quite well for a corner. Probably not as good as these top 3 we've talked about, but a good tackler. For me, there are probably more negatives when looking at him, just comparing him to the other guys. That might not be fair on him, but he also didn't have a great combine workout, which, that's going to be tough. I think he ran in a 4.5 maybe in the combine.
Yeah.
which didn't. I mean, when you combine that with his stats, it's like, okay, he's probably a round 2 pick. That's the grade I have on him as a round 2. He doesn't have the fluidity in his hips. And the play speed is slightly off, and he also muffled a few interceptions, which kind of annoys me. It's like it went straight through his hands or fell off his hands, and it's like, yeah, he could have had 2 or 3 picks this year. So I think I think he's got potential. Absolutely a zone fit for me. To probably just keep his eyes on the quarterback and make sure he can see what's going on. I wouldn't match him up 1-on-1 with anyone, just from what I've seen. But yeah, good size and in the right scheme, I'm sure he's going to be effective.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar to you. I think he is more man zone versatile than you. Maybe you do. Maybe I'm a little bit higher on him. I think maybe I agree. I think a second round grade for me, but I would also not be surprised to see a team come up into the 24 to 32 range to maybe trade back in to come and get him if he falls down there. Because everybody needs these kind of long boundary corners now in the NFL. One interception in his whole collegiate career is an issue. And I don't think you can teach that. You see like Asante Samuel Jr. come into the NFL and immediately start picking the ball off. Like that is ball hawks like that don't seem to be made in the NFL. They seem to be made in high school and college, and then they carry that on into the NFL. So you'd have a serious concern about that for Joey Porter. Can you use a first round pick on someone that isn't going to turn you the ball over 3 or 4 times a year in the NFL? It's debatable. Although PFF, one stat I did, as you say, the stats have been unkind to him in this pre-draft process, but I think PFF have him rated best in coverage of any corner last year in college football, in FBS last year. So they seem PFF are very high on his coverage skills, but some teams like the Eagles really value that. Other teams value that sort of thing less. So that might vary his draft stock a little bit, but totally agree with you. I think second round grade for me, but a talented player, no doubt.
Yeah, and as you said, it's a need in the NFL. It's a lot of people are drafted ahead of their time, and when we're talking about cornerbacks, because you want to find that kind of source guard in the draft. So probably no surprise if he does go in the first round. But I think just in terms of the talent available, he's probably a second round, as we've discussed. And here's the final big board then for the current anyway, I should say, for the defensive backs.
I was going to say, don't lock me in March on the final big board.
So we've got our quarterbacks down the bottom there, but for now, DB's up here. So now we're pretty much the same, Mike. We just got those top 2 guys rated a little differently. So yeah, going to be interesting when we put together the big board who we decide to go with number 1.
The consensus big board, there might be some serious debate that has to take place there over a cup of tea for me, Tom. I think probably just coffee.
I think so. Yeah, it won't be a light issue, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff.
Excellent. You've looked at more D-line prospects than me and more familiar, so I'll swing over to you to go through D-line. I'll put your D-line prospects on the whiteboard as you go along.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't say I've got them. Wouldn't say I've got them ranked as such. Yeah, I mean, edge I'm more comfortable with, maybe the top 3. So I suppose we should probably start with Will Anderson here. Probably a consensus number 1 edge from pretty much everybody. I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know here with Will Anderson. Suspected rather that he wouldn't absolutely blow the combine away with his athletic testing. But he's been mocked as a top 5 pick in this draft for the last 2 years. And that is because of the pure production. You see 10 sacks on the year this year. I think it was like 14 or something in 2021. So extremely productive. Can play the run as well as he plays the pass. So when you get that kind of when you see that on tape, you just don't really worry about the athletic testing at the combine. There's a school of thought where Will Anderson didn't even need to go other than to do the interviews with teams. So he'd pretty much be the consensus number 1. And then there's some really interesting talents below that. So you start getting into the Clemson kid, Murphy. I'm just going to get his first name because that escapes me. I've only seen cut-ups of him this week rather than full film. But he's a little bit more, he's a little less Miles Murphy here. He's much more stereotypical Cleveland Ferrell style Clemson. 6'5", 275 pounds. And I have to say that is my comp for him coming into the NFL. I don't actually hate Cleveland Ferrell. I think he's been a semi-productive edge player that never should have been drafted in the top 5 of the draft. That's Mike Mayock losing his mind there in Oakland. I think Miles Murphy projects to be a similar player, honestly, which is not a bad player. 5 to 10 sack a year man that will play the run, most stout against the run, I would say, out of all of these prospects. Probably helped in large part to his size, his frame. You just can't move on the edge there. So maybe if a team already has a flying pass rusher already, they can bring a Miles Murphy in to secure the other edge and just be a good complementary piece. I'm thinking of teams like, for example, the Eagles, the 49ers, teams that already have pass rush in place, could just use a complementary piece. He's certainly one that you'd have to consider. So quite intrigued by him at this point, but wouldn't see.
Yeah, the comp to Ferrell's interesting because Ferrell was also on, he rose up draft boards as the process went on. Which seems to be what Murphy's doing. So it's an absolute stonewall there in comparison. Which I mean, your grade on him, I guess he would be a top 10 grade for his lack of sack production.
He's at a premium position. So I would say you'd have to drop him in at the sort of the top 2/3 of the first round. So 0 to 24, anywhere in there. I could see him going. I would take him between 10 and 24 if I was a team that needed defensive line help. I don't think you can be too fussy in the NFL. He'd probably be my number 3 end if I was making a board at the moment. Just behind this next large human being that I'm about to tell you about. I'm very fascinated by. I got to see full tape of it, one full tape of Van Ness this year, and I've missed him. I've somehow got his name wrong. How is that possible?
Just type in Van Ness. Yeah,
no, that's what I'm going for. Yeah, I'm just making a mess of it here. A van mess of it, as it were. He's down as Lucas Van Ness. I've been calling him Luke Van Ness, so maybe that's
too informal for me there. My goodness.
Yeah, dear me. This guy is a really, really interesting prospect. Iowa are a program close to my heart. I do enjoy watching them play football, but they are very, very specific in their rules on defense. Seniors start and seniors play the most. So he was only a sophomore last year, Luke Van Ness. As such, did not see the field on early downs as much as you would maybe expect of someone of this caliber. Interesting, Iowa calling him 6'7", 270. Looks like the combine has corrected that down to 6'5", 264. But
what's going on in Iowa?
but just huge power in his hands from Van Ness, raw ability to bend the edge. This is much more, you can hear the excitement in my voice, much more of exciting of a prospect in terms than Miles Murphy, just in terms of pure pass rushing. He's raw. They stood him up a lot. I didn't see him a lot with in a 3 or 4 point stance. So that might be interesting if you're going to play quite strict 4-down linemen in the NFL. If you're a team like that, you might look at him a bit more suspiciously, shall we say? A lot more teams are more hybrid than that these days, though. And I think a team like that, I think a team that needs a pass rush, a pass rusher that can get double-digit sacks between that 10 and 15 number, will take a swing on Luke Van Ness in the top 15. I've seen him mocked lower than that. I've just got a feeling about him. I think someone's going to fall in love with him, like I kind of have. He's against the run, he's perfectly good against the run. I wouldn't say he's outstanding run defender, but to be fair, he played a lot on 3rd down for the Hawkeyes. So it is very hard to tell how he really will hold up. You've got to imagine there's 15 pounds could go on that frame when he comes into the NFL, which will help him in that run support kind of role. But yeah, I was really intrigued by Luke Van Ness. I think he might end up. I think I might be high on him versus the consensus, I would imagine. But
I think there's a few analysts who do really enjoy him, and yeah, again, most people are just baffled why he doesn't play too much, which makes it a hard evaluation again. But I think you're right. I think someone is going to fall in love with him, and maybe even top 10.
I honestly, as an Eagles fan, I'm biased. I'd be pounding the table at 10 for Luke Van Ness if he was still on the board, and I think Howie Roseman's the kind of move he'd make. Reinforce the trenches at 10. And just last one for me that I think was kind of going to be an honorable mention, but I've seen a lot of buzz recently that he's going to be a top first round pick, which has really grabbed my attention, as well as his combine performance, because it was, as you see, the production is limited there from 2022. This is a lot more boom or bust we're talking now for Nolan Smith. But when you run a 4.39 official 40-yard dash, Tom, at 240 pounds, you're going to get drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. And he isn't just an athletic freak. He plays like a proper edge defender should. Didn't always get the opportunities. Again, a bit more of a part-timer at Georgia, just because of the absolute wealth of options in that front seven you made reference to earlier. But yeah, he's a frightening player off the air. There are just some reps. I've seen some cut-ups where it just blows past people with ease, and you can't do that at the NFL with the kind of consistency he did at Georgia. But I mean, that's a good starting point to have for somebody. And you also have to think in run defense as well, going sideline to sideline. If you could stand him up on the edge rather than have him in a sprinter's stance, he might also be able to help you out getting out to the sideline to stop some of those zone wide zones. Any of those quick handoffs to receivers in the backfield. I'd be looking for Nolan Smith to be quite destructive. Just free him up to go after ball carriers and passers. I think I could see him going also similar to Miles Murphy in that 10 to 24 range. I don't think he'll make it out of the first round either.
Did he play on the line at Georgia, or did he stand up at OLB?
So it's interesting. Another reason that I think that he'll be perhaps more coveted in the NFL than he was at Georgia is that he did get reps standing up at mid linebacker and blitzing from there. And we've seen the success that Micah Parsons has had doing that. I mean, Parsons last year really became more of an edge player but in his rookie season, he blitzed a lot from Mike and Sam linebacker positions, which is where I think Nolan Smith, where a team that's already loaded, would consider that for him. I think I've seen him mocked a little bit a couple of times to the Jags, which would be a really interesting one. They don't necessarily have a standout pass rusher, but they do have a lot of highly drafted options on that front seven. The ability just to move Nolan Smith around, don't put him in coverage, don't make him gap responsible, just let him get after things would be an interesting bit there. Whether that's worth a top 10, that won't be worth a first round pick for everybody, but for some defense, I think it will. I don't think he'll make it out of the first round. So I think I've got I think I probably will end up having first round grades on all of these guys. Yeah,
maybe the Ravens or Steelers as well would be interested in him. Teams that have got that line set up and just want someone to roam. That could be interesting to watch.
Yeah, he does feel a bit like a Raven to me. That's a really good shout. I think that just pure speed edge player they've always had. I mean, they have moved on from Wink Martindale now, but I've actually seen him mocked to the Giants down in the 20s as well. And I think Wink Martindale would love a player like this in that defense. So I think that might be his floor, his ceiling. I think that's as late as he goes, probably to the Giants, I suspect. But you never know. we don't know anything about off the fields or anything like that, so it's hard to gauge all of that. But just on the tape, I think you'd have to be tempted to take a chance on him.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
And then just on the interior, on the interior defensive line, I just wanted to
Final
mention.
edge there. Well, not the final, but the final for today.
Yeah, you keep trying to trap me in. I've only watched cut-ups of all of these linemen, so I need to try and find full tapes for some of these guys. Kalijah
what are you doing? You need to get some full game film on.
I know. Who's got the time? Kalijah Cansey, I just wanted to give an honourable mention to playing defensive tackle on the interior defensive line, because I think there's a temptation someone's going to play him as a 4-3 defensive end. As you can see, the size just isn't there. 6 foot, 275 pounds. But he comes out of Pitt. He's already getting comped to Aaron Donald, which is just really unfair on him. But he did run. He at 275 pounds, he ran a sub 4.65 40, and just put on an absolute show at the combine. And his tape as a sub package 3 technique defender, the ability to get in gaps against the run and the pass, and flex out and play on the edge as well on later downs, I think is really interesting for teams. I think he's definitely a prospect worth keeping an eye on. I could see him sneaking into the back of the first round. I've probably only got a second round grade on him just from what I've seen. I think somebody could fall in love though, and think they're getting Aaron Donald down at the bottom of the first round, which shouldn't surprise anyone when you test like that in Indianapolis.
Yeah. Okay,
and that's
interesting.
And that's kind of it for the D line that I had. We've only got about a minute and 15 seconds here, Tom. So we'll probably just look to wrap up. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. It'd be interesting to see when you get a chance to look at some of these guys, how your opinions of them stack up.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of work to get into, still a lot of positions to get into. But I think the next few weeks we'll be discussing these position groups more. Maybe we'll go to the quarterbacks again, Mike. That's always a lot of fun. And then I think wide receivers one we both need to get to, as well as running back, I guess. So yeah, lots to do.
Yeah, and tight end as well. I think it's fair to say I've got quite a strong take on a couple of these tight ends already. So all work that's happening in the background, and we'll be able to shed a bit more light on that in the coming days.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, sounds good. We'll wrap it up for now. But we'll be back in the next few weeks, and until then, go well.
Go well.